Hello world, it's a future Pokemon TCG World Champion to give you a little bit of an update on how I've been getting on with the game, and I've been kicking a lot of gum and chewing even more ass because I have been doing absolutely great at the game. So it's been roughly, I think I'm getting up to the 2 month mark. I don't think it's exactly been 2 months since I've started playing the Pokemon TCG, and I'm loving it. I play at least a couple of games every day on the TCG Live. I've gone into my local game like store thing next to me. I mean, it's like a 30-minute walk, but it's relatively next to me. And I go there every Thursdays to play live with people. And I figured out that there is actually a cup coming up on the 20th, so 2 weeks away from me now. And I am super excited to play in it. I think I have everything in my power to potentially win it. And I know that comes off as very arrogant because I have only been playing it for a few months and people have been playing this game for absolute years. But one of the reasons I say that is because there is actually a Lille event happening here. And to get from England to Lille or France isn't all that expensive. You could probably get there for less than £100, euros, dollars, whatever. So for a lot of people, it is very accessible to get there. And if people are good enough and have enough money, majority of the good players who have all of that will go to that event. So a lot of the good players that I know from the place that I play at will not be there on the 20th because they'll be at the Lille event. So I'm not saying I'm going to win it, but I have a better chance than I would normally. So how have I been getting on in the past few months? Well, pretty good. I've been patting my balls over here because I think that my progression from where I was, I think I made that video a month or a couple of weeks ago, to now, I think has been pretty good because I've gone all the way from, I think I was Great Ball during that video, to all the way to the Master League. I'm in the Deoxys, so right at the lower end, and that's only because I've not really been playing over in the past few weeks, so maybe I would be like a tier over. I don't think much more than that. And I've been rinsing a lot of my opponents I've been going through. On the other hand, whilst I am happy at that progression, on the other hand, I don't think it's that great of a progression purely because a lot of the people I've been talking to say that you only really go up against really good players when you get to Arceus, which is the top of the game. And when it comes to online games and rankings and stuff compared to in real life, it's kind of off and on. The Pokemon game is very lenient in that if someone DCs straight off the start, you will still get progression points, whereas a lot of games like FIFA, for example, will not give you the progression points because they know that you've DC'd straight at the start of the game. So there is a lot of DCing in the game. People will quit very, very frequently and very, very early on in the game if they don't get the decks or the hands that they need. So you can actually progress through the game pretty quickly without being all that good. So on one hand, I think Master League is really good. On the other hand, meh. In the last video as well, all I had was a basic gardivour deck from literally straight fresh opened from the battle box. But now I have pretty much a competitive deck, not only in the game, but also, where is it? Here. I've even got a deck box, as you can see. This one looks really cool. So in fact, before I go into my deck, I'm going to show you some of the stuff I got. So this is a deck box I got from one of the guys who actually works at the Pokemon events. He's a really cool guy called Chandler. So if you guys ever see him out and about in the Pokemon events, give him a hi and maybe a slap on the ass as well. He's a great guy. So he gave me this. Really, really cool. I do actually really enjoy it because I think it's a really cool deck box. Rowlet or Decidueye, I can't remember what this guy's called. Rowlet's the first evolution. Decidueye, I like him. I think he's super cool. I actually think he's better than Litten in the Sun and Moon starters, but I always pick a fire starter, so I'm never actually going to pick him. And he also gave me this playmat. Now, this playmat is from a specific World Champions that he attended to, but he managed to sell it to me. And I'm not the biggest Pikachu fan, but I actually think this looks so cool. Look how cool that looks. You guys probably can't even hear me that well because I'm blocking the mic, but look at that. It looks so cool. So I have a really cool battle box or battle deck or whatever it's called, a deck box. And I have a really cool play mat, which from my experience of playing Yu-Gi-Oh, you need a mat to play. With Pokemon, you don't really. I'm pretty sure you can go into competitive tournaments and not bring a mat with you, and that's completely fine. So that kind of threw me for a loop there. So I've got all of those things, but now let's actually talk about the decks themselves. So for you, it'll just be a picture on your screen, but for me, I'm actually looking at the game here on my corner of my screen. So this is the deck that I'm not 100% happy with. I'm like probably 95% happy with. There's a few cards that I'm going to go through them that I'm not 100% on, but I'm going to go through with them. So also just before I go through the cards, there's a lot of things that I've learned. I've learned like the whole basics things, which I knew back in the days. I learned about rotations, so stuff with the letters at the bottom left of the card, and when cards go, when cards come back, all of that stuff. So the bad thing about the Gardevoir deck that I'm running is that it's almost out of rotation, and not Gardevoir itself, but the Curliers that do the refinement that are super important for this deck are going to go in a couple of months' time. So I'm really thinking about another deck that I'm going to build soon, but I'm going to talk about that towards the end of the video. So let's actually go through the deck that I'm running through right now. So first up, I'm going Radiant Greninja. And Radiant Greninja is super important to this deck, but from my smooth brain, I hardly know the game. A lot of the veterans will probably like punch me in the face and say, no, keep it there. Half of me really wants to take it out because I can get my Gardevoir out, I could get my Drifloon out, I could get a lot of the Pokemon I need out before I even see a Radiant Greninja. So half of me is thinking, do I really need him? But I guess sometimes at the start of the game when I do have an S-Ball or I do just pick him up, he's really, really good to shuffle energies into my discard pile. So for now, I'm going to keep him there until I have a better solution. But he's one that I'm like, I would like to take out at some point if I could, because I can't really attack with him. He's purely there for just his ability. And for me, I think that's a bit too one-dimensional, but I'm going to keep him there. Then we have one Drifloon that I'm running. I know some people like to run two, but I've been testing out with just one Drifloon, and I've been super happy with it. I can get him out of my discard pile super quick, and I have another card in here, which you probably can see off the screenshot already, which is Night Stretcher. Night Stretcher is super good because as soon as he gets KO'd, I can just bring Drifloon right back. Not only that, I have a Super Rod, which also brings him back into my deck. I have Nest Balls, I have Artisan, which can just take him out of my deck and straight into my hand. So I think one Drifloon for every fight I've had has been perfect. I've never felt the need to have more than one, other than when he's in my prize deck. That's the only time that he kind of kills me, but if I even had two, there's probably a good chance as well that I'm going to have both of them in my prize deck. So that's always an issue I'm going to run into either way. I then have Klefki. Now, Klefki was one that I took out of my deck because I was like, I don't really like it because it makes my Pokemon suffer from their abilities. But one deck in particular really made me want to keep Klefki in my deck. And for 90% of the time, I don't use Klefki, but when I go up against that one specific deck, or even other decks, Klefki works for other decks as well, but I'm just thinking of one in particular Klefki's great against, and that's, I always forget his name, is it Ogerpon? He's a grass type with like a mask on him, and every time you activate his ability of attaching an energy, he can draw one card. He is so good to stop that deck. Every time I start Klefki out, and I just happen to go up against that deck, it just stops them immediately and stalls the game to a point where I can get my Gardevoir out before they can even start any form of attack or any form of getting stuff together. So Klefki, I really, really enjoy keeping there. Next, I have Mimikyu, and Mimikyu has been one that's been out and in my deck so many times. I now have him in, and I'm also kind of thinking of taking him out. He's really good to stall the majority of decks because from my experience of playing the game, almost every deck attacks and most of their lineup, even bench, is going to be EX or V Pokemon. So having Mimikyu there to just stall most decks is really, really good. But sometimes he can be a bit of a pain getting energy on him because if I have Gardevoir all set and ready, I will most likely have a Drifloon already ready. So I'm not going to have Mimikyu out there. And then when Mimikyu is out there, unless he's stalling, getting energies on him before Gardevoir is there is really annoying. And most of the time people just use counter catchers or stuff like that, and then I just have two energies stuck on Mimikyu that I can't take out unless I add a different card that allows me to move energies around. So he's one that I'm kind of umming and ahhing whether to take in or out, but I'm kind of testing him out with the deck in there, but there's a very good chance he'll come out. Then I'm going to Monkey Dory. Now, Monkey Dory is a very, very, I don't want to say famous because that sounds a little bit cringe. he's a very popular choice between Gardevoir decks because his ability is absolutely nuts. If you attach one Dark Energy to him, which, because I have Earthen Vessel in my deck, giving spoilers here, because I have Earthen Vessel in my deck, it's really easy to get the Dark Energies out if I have a Monkey Dory straight in my bench. And because of Gardevoir's ability where it does damage to itself, it's really good to just shuffle damage over to my opponent's Pokemon. It's really good in particular for Charizard decks because it just gets out of my Drifloon's range of the 300 damage. So if I do the 30 damage through Monkey Dory, I can then just knock out his Charizard super duper easily. So he's really good for that. He's also good for Pokemon like Dragapult, because Dragapult is just out of Gardevoir's range of attack. And for, again, 99% of the time, I'm never attacking with Gardevoir. It's always staying on my bench because of its ability. But in case I do need to use Gardevoir to take out someone's really beefy big Pokemon, Monkey Dory is really good with that with Dragapult. Also really good with, it's either Rotom or Entei that just has 200 health. So it's just out of my Gardevoir's range and just out of Screamtail's range as well sometimes, because Screamtail only does 160 damage. So Monkey Door is really, really good to just kind of get those little bits of damage off on Pokemon that I need at that time. Then we have 4 Ralts, which is standard in Gardevoir decks, 4 Curlies, which is standard. Some people run 3 Gardevoirs. Again, I think 2 is absolutely fine. Sometimes I'm feeling a little wacky and I really just want to run 1, but because I'm only running 1 Drifloon and I only have 1 Night Stretcher, and even if I full Rod or Super Rod Gardevoir back into my deck, it's still going to be a bit of a pain trying to get it back. So I'm running 2, but at some point I might try just 1, but I don't think that's going to happen. Then I have a Screamtail, which at the start of the game, when I was still learning the game, I thought Screamtail was fucking awful. But having a sniping option and having something that I can just take off like a Beebril off someone's deck, or is Beebril the evolution? Beebril off someone's deck, or a Pheasantipity or something. Screamtail is really, really good. I really enjoy having Screamtail back in my deck. Then we have a Pheasantipity. Now, when it comes to building decks, I don't like to copy other people's decks. It's always been a thing with me. Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, anything. I do not like to copy people outright. Even COD. People like to copy other people's guns on COD. I don't like doing that. I like building stuff for myself and having something that I've built from myself. But I do like taking inspiration off other people. So I did see someone who won a tournament somewhere in America, Kentucky, I can't remember, was using a Gardevoir deck and had a Pheasantipity in there. And I was like, why don't I try Pheasantipity? One of the greatest additions I've ever had. Pheasantipity in a Gardevoir deck should be a staple because you can siphon cards through so easily. And because of using the Drifloon technique where, you know, you're damaging Drifloon to practically almost near a concussion. He's practically almost knocked out. He's on deathbed in the front lines. He's always going to get knocked out. You're only going to take 1 prize card off of it. Pheasantipity can then just... I think you can draw up to like 3 cards or something like that, which is amazing because you're probably going to get a lot of prize cards taken off you. You're going to get a lot of Pokemon knocked out. So Pheasantipity in the Gardevoir deck should just be a staple. Now, I know some people don't run it because it's super easy to KO and it's an easy 2 prize card if someone has a boss's orders or something. But for me, I think it's worth the risk. If I also have just a spare Bravery Charm, I will slap it on him. But most of the time, I do just save it for Drifloon. But I think he's great there. 2 Buddy Buddy Puff or 3 Buddy Buddy Puffins. I know some people run 4, but I've been trying 3, and 3 is absolutely fine. I almost never brick. I always have the right Pokemon to take out. You have so many other cards like the Dive Ball or Nest Ball, whichever one it is, Artisan, Great Ball. There's so many other options to get Pokemon out. I really don't think you need 4 of them. I can't remember what I swapped out for, but I think 3 is absolutely fine. We have 2 Counter Catchers, which again, staple. We have 2 Earthen Vessel, again, staple. 1 Heavy Ball, 2 Nest Balls, 1 Night Stretcher, 1 Pal Pad, 2 Rare Candy. I know a lot of people in the Gardevoir deck do not like to use Rare Candies. I've been trying out Rare Candies, and I think it's great because sometimes you can't always get the Pokemon out and leveled up just in time, but there are a lot of moments where you can get a Rare Candy out, or you even Arvin or something. You get that Rare Candy out, you have a Gardevoir in your hand, you have a Ralts out, or 2 or 3 Ralts out, so your opponent's almost never going to knock out all 3 of them. You can just get a Gardevoir straight off rip. And I think that is absolutely great to just have a Gardevoir super quickly, always out and ready. It's just perfect. So I'm going to run 2 Rare Candies. Then 2 Super Rods, 2 Ultra Balls. I then have Unfair Stamp. I know some people like to use Aroma, or there's another ace spec that people like to use in Gardevoirs. I can't remember what it was. Cape. It's a something cape where it gives like an extra like 100 or 120 health. People like to run those 2. But Unfair Stamp, I think, is great because it can get you more cards than you can get through Iono or something if you don't have a lot of prize cards. And it can really just destroy your opponent's hands. Like, an opponent only having 2 cards, and then once their draw phase comes, only having 3, can really just win you a game. Like, just pure and simply win you a game. So I really like having Unfair Stamp. 1 Artisan, which I have been umming and ahhing about taking it out because I really almost never use it. And it is a super important card. You can put it down. But I almost never use it because it either gets taken out straight away for another opponent's stadium or an opponent also takes advantage of it much better than I do half the time. And I almost never just get it on my hand when I need it. So there are times where I do want to take out because I do absolutely fine when I don't have it. So having it out of my deck completely and having another card that might do better. Again, I'm not 100% sure. I will probably keep that one because I will trust the people who know about the game a lot better than me. I then have 4 Arvin because that's obviously a classic. Again, you always want stuff that brings more cards, more supporter cards into your hand. Boss's Orders, again, one that a lot of people use. I'm then going 3 Iono. Same thing with a lot of the other cards. A lot of people run 4 Iono. I think 3 is fine. I have Unfair Stamp in there as well, which does a similar type of ability where you both take the cards out of your hand, shuffle in your deck, bring some cards in your hand. So I'm almost using Unfair Stamp as another Iono and then having that spare card for something else in the deck. I then have Professor Turo's Research, which almost every Gardevoir deck has, and I still haven't found a reason to use it. I'm winning most games. I'm finding myself comfortable, even against people who are really good at the game. I find myself comfortable going up against them. I still haven't found a good reason for Professor Turo's Research. So if any of you play a Gardevoir deck or you know how a Gardevoir deck plays, please let me know. The only one play I have where I know kind of how to use him is if I have a Gardevoir out with like 250 plus damage or something, or even 200 plus damage. I'll then use him to bring it back into my hand. And then if I have a Curly out, I could just evolve that, and then it has much less damage. That is the only reason I have of using him, because other than that, most of the Pokemon I'm going to have out, I'm ready to just have them knocked out, like a Drifloon or a Screamtail or something, which is only going to give one prize card away. So again, someone explain to me why I should use that, because I'm not 100% sure. Then I have 2 Bravery Charms. I have 1 Devolution. Purely, I only added this purely because of Charizard. Everyone just rare candies a Charizard straight out the way. And most of the time when I use Devolution, they just have another rare candy straight, like ready to just evolve Charizard again. Or if they evolved it from Charmeleon, obviously you can just evolve it straight away. But it has helped me sometimes, so I'm going to keep it in there. TM Evolution, obviously, for the Curliers. And then I have 2 Dark Energy, 7 Psychic Energy, which is, again, it's a very classic split for a lot of Curlier decks that are running Monkey Dories and stuff like that. So this is the deck I'm running currently. Now, as for my actual physical deck, there are a lot of cards that I'm missing before the tournament, but I will get them at some point this week or next week, so I will have them for the tournament. So I'm missing an Unfair Stamp, I'm missing Mimikyu, which, again, I'm not 100% sure if I want to run. I'm missing Klefki, I'm missing a few other, just 1 or 2 cards I'm missing, but for the most part, I've got most of the cards, because when I've gone to the actual venue to play on the Thursdays, just have the free play, people are always there to just trade with people, and a lot of the cards I needed were super cheap. So people just gave me a lot of the cards I needed. Stuff like Unfair Stamp, I will need to buy, because obviously that's a lot more expensive. Mimikyu, I will probably buy. I do want to give them money for it. Let me just make that clear. I'm not going to take it off them for free. I will pay for like a coffee or something for them. But they were very nice to just give me the card, so I am very thankful for that. Now, I have had the question posed to me of people saying, how far do you actually want to take this? To be completely honest with you, I'm just kind of going to see how it goes. For the next few months, I'm just going to play. I'm going to enter some tournaments, maybe go to a regionals if it's close by. I know there's a regionals in Birmingham, which isn't too far from me here in England, in January, I think, or February, something like that. So I'm really looking forward to going to that, and I'm going to see how I perform in that. But I mostly only got into the Pokemon TCG because, on one hand, it's been something I wanted to get into and try for ages, and I've fallen in love with it. It's a great game. But on the other hand, I am looking to become a professor, because I would like to work at the actual Pokemon events themselves, because I think that just looks like so much fun, just going around exploring the world through Pokemon itself. I think that would be just the most fun thing to do ever. As for Pokemon content on this channel, there's not going to be much of it. If you watch this whole video and you're like, I fucking love this guy's Pokemon content, there's not. This channel is not about Pokemon. I just like updating people on stuff I am doing. There will be a pack opening at some point. I know there's a new Pokemon set coming out around about in November. I'm also going to get the new Charizard battle deck as well. So I might do a live stream for that at some point. Just do like a full pack opening on live stream, because I think that would be super, super fun. I will also do some Pokemon live games at some point, maybe just before the tournament on the 20th. So I could just play around with the deck and people can give me some advice. So if you guys want to give me some advice before the tournament, please hop on by, subscribe, so you guys know when I'm going live. But yeah, that's it. You're all caught up on my Pokemon TCG journey. I hope you guys are excited for my tournament. I hope you guys are excited for some live streams I'm doing on Pokemon. And this is kind of just a brief overview on how I've developed, because I have had a few comments of people saying, hey, do you want advice? Hey, do you want this? Quite recently. And I've just been telling people, hold off on your advice. Let me release this video so you guys know exactly what I know up to now, and you guys can give me the adequate advice, because now you're pretty much all caught up, and anything I do get better at with the game will now be slower, because whenever you do start something, you get really good at something, or you understand it really quickly, and then once you're competent at stuff, you kind of hit like a brick wall, which is where I'm at now. Like, I'm developing a lot slower at the game than I was a month ago because I understand how the game works. I understand how decks work. So now it's just I just need experience. So any advice on the next deck I build? I'm leaning on Charizard. Might be Dragapult. I'm not 100% sure on which one I'm going to go for. Maybe even Raging Bolt. If you guys have any advice on the actual deck that I'm building or how to play it or Professor Toro's research, because again, I still think that card is fucking butt cheeks. Just give me any advice. Anyway, this has been my Pokemon TCG update. I'll see you guys later. Bye.